Hello everybody and welcome to Victoria 2 Heart of Darkness. This is your Duke speaking. We're here to play our first, one thing I'd like to point out, I really enjoy this art, the artwork that they make. It's really beautiful. From what I remember, a lot of like the loading pictures are based off of actual paintings of the time and things like that, but some, even if this isn't, some things aren't, some things are, I suppose, but like this is beautiful. And I really like the ambient background music. But for our first game, we are going to play as the United States of America, where I live, where I was born and raised, and arguably one of the better countries to play as, or worse, depending. I mean, for me, it's a pretty easy starting country because it starts off as a great power, or near great power. It's a secondary power at the beginning, but I mean, the cultures are pretty uniform. There's Yankees and Dixie, pretty much. Prime land, just like in 1836, these areas are being colonized. The Louisiana Purchase was ours, and most of the U.S. when you start off as territories, not states. We have British Canada to the north, the remainder of British Canada, since the U.S. took it in the Revolutionary War. Texas is fighting for its independence. Mexico. And of course, we have the whole map. So, and then of course, the colonial powers, France, Britain, etc., own most of the, Spain own most of the Caribbean. So let's start as the United States, the 10th best country in the world. I think I'm gonna record something like 3 episodes in a row. Actually, I don't know. I'm thinking about it as I'm going along. So we're paused. Oh, I have to move this recording thing because it's in the way. Oh, wow. Huh, that's weird. I'm playing on a bigger resolution. I messed up the resolution somehow and I had to fix it. But the top bar, the 8 buttons only take up, they don't take up the whole screen. That's really weird. Let me move the recording button over to the right there where it's not in the way then. Right there. How about that? This might actually be really good for me, even though it's weird. So, as the U.S., we have colonial power. And see, for some reason we automatically start as a great power. So, we can colonize. We have 278 colonial points. The question is, where do we want to colonize? Mexico's starting to colonize that. Let's fight them there for 80. Let's take Oklahoma for 80. And we have enough for one more, which I think we should use to block the Mexicans down here as well, in Oregon. So we're going to colonize these 3 spots. Now, also before we begin, we have no allies. We have a decent-sized military, 14 brigades. But Texas is in a war for their independence with Mexico. So we have to get our military over there and prepare to help. As for research, we don't have a lot. I would suggest loading these, but our administration right now, like I mentioned in the tutorial, has different effects. We have negative 10% for Army and Navy techs, and plus 10 for commerce, plus 10 for culture, and plus 5 for industry research. So we're going to do romanticism, which pretty much just gives us a bunch of prestige. All the ones in the aesthetics column give us a bunch of prestige. So we're going to start research there. And 42% literate people in our country. We could use more clergymen for sure. And we have 2 national focus. So we have 4 million adult males. Let's see. And our states are organized in order of population. And then you see we have states in order of population. And then after our states, Arkansas is our last state. Even though District of Columbia isn't an actual state, they consider it like a state in the game. You see the colonial province. Once states are done, it lists our colonial provinces in order of their population. Michigan, Florida, Iowa, Wisconsin, etc. So I guess about half of our territory is still not states at this point. New York, since it's our most populous, we're going to encourage clergymen there. And we are going to encourage soldiers in Pennsylvania. One thing we actually need to be worried about is our government, because we are a democracy, and therefore whatever the people vote becomes our leading party. I want conservative no matter what, so we need to be very careful of that. Right now, overall, our vote is pretty good for Democratic, the Conservative Party. Sorry, my talking is off the chain here. So, we are going to play on 2 speed for now. As a great power, we're already friendly with Texas. We're not going to waste our points on that. Therefore, we can intervene in the war with Mexico. The Dragoons, pause. Texas is requesting military access from us, which means they can move in our territory. Yes, we're going to say yes. And Mexico is requesting the same thing. We're going to say no, because we don't like Mexico in this situation. So, what we are going to do... Who are these guys? This is the U.S. Army. How about they go with the U.S. Army of Observation? And then these 2 guys can meet up. Let's get military access from them as well, which allows our troops to move through their country. They will not accept. Why won't they accept? Huh. Bremen has gone bankrupt, so we gain a casus belli on them, meaning we can go to war without gaining infamy. But we're not going to, because Bremen is all the way in Europe. Oh, I almost forgot. We have to fix our budget. Under this party, we can only raise our tariffs to that. A massive amount being spent on military, lower naval all the way, 45 to 40, 30%, because we don't use our navy for a while. I rarely use my navy. Reduce our land units to 75% spending. Reduce the middle class taxes, increase the rich taxes and the poor taxes. 80% on the poor, 100% on the rich, 75% on the rich, and 20% on the middle class until we can, and that way we're earning positive money. Lubeck has gone bankrupt. That's fine. They're in Europe, so they're not important. The UK has entered a military alliance with the Ottomans. This is basically what's going on around the world. Colombia entered a military alliance with Mexico. I'm pretty sure they can't join the war. That'd be awkward. Before we get too far into this game, I would definitely like to say one goal. While in most of my games I prefer to be a militaristic guy, this one I'd like to be more of an economic person. Take the world by sphering countries and by economy. Speaking of which, we're going to use our sphering power to sphere Brazil. You see, current influence priority is high, and we're cordial with them right now, so we are going to gain influence in their country until we can sphere them, which means we have better trade with them and more of a chance to become allies and things like that. So, we can make these into territories after so many days if nobody competes with us. Our expedition by September 28th, 1936, or 1836 rather. I did go in the files and change the end date for the game to 1999, so we have plenty of playtime. There's our navy, but we don't really need our navy, so I never really disband the navy. I just like cut funding to it. Also, I'm going to mobilize our troops. Ooh, one of our first things. A lot of these tend to repeat themselves, which is like for different states or different areas, but I usually choose the same answers. And I guess I'll read them all once for you guys. Border Ruffians in Dickinson. The flames lick the log cabins and wooden houses, throwing a queer orange glow up at a starry night sky, only slightly obscured by the plumes of smoke billowing up from the town. He rides down Main Street, with strange shadows dancing about him as he goes. Come out, wherever you are," he screams. Far away in the city, gunshots echo against the screams of dying men. Border ruffians, intent on making North Dakota a slave state, have crossed the border into Dickinson and raided a small outlying settlement in the territory. So basically, border ruffians entered North Dakota because they want it to be a slave state. We can either do grim news, and they have an event for a year, which gives them a negative life rating, and which basically means we do nothing. Or enact an ordinance to stop them, which gives consciousness to everyone in the slave states, in the non-slave states. I guess I'll do that. You see, pretty much when you're playing as the United States, one of the worst things is you cannot avoid the Civil War. It's almost impossible. Now, but you can prevent it until like the 1860s. It can happen anywhere from like the late 1840s to, I guess, the early 1870s, but if I play my cards right, we can prevent it for as long as possible until we're ready for it. We will have all of our troops. See, I sometimes switch maps. Supply limit. All the bright lime green is good areas for men to be at. Red is bad. Like, it just basically means how well they're going to be resupplied. So we're going to have them all meet in Baton Rouge. Merge on. So all of our mobilized units will now go to Baton Rouge. Or any units we make until we swap our thing out. We don't have any allies yet. Ottoman restoration of Tripoli, Texan War of Independence, Bolivian liberation of the Amazonas. Once the Mexicans start gaining ground, then we can intervene on Texas's behalf, and we will, to help them fight the Mexicans, and then we'll... Okay, here's a second event that often appears. Copperheads in Fort Wayne. The Copperheads were a group of Democrats in the northern U.S. who, during the Civil War, opposed the war and favored a peace settlement with the South. The moniker came originally from Unionists, likening them to poisonous snakes, but it soon struck home with the Copperheads themselves. While there is no war yet, there is staunch resistance to abolitionism within some Democratic circles in Fort Wayne. Stepping up the local political campaigning could probably neutralize them, but only at the cost of offending Southern sentiments. We either have more important concerns, which increases the local consciousness, or all pops in Virginia gain 20% or 0.20 consciousness. So Fort Wayne is in Virginia. They either get... This is probably the better thing. We have more important concerns because it ends in a year or so, and then the local consciousness ends. So we have more important concerns. So we are having these guys meet there, and we're not going to merge them, but we're going to keep them together. We might merge them, I'm not sure. And then all the guys mobilizing will meet in Baton Rouge, and they will be resupplied. Whenever these places, the dates come for us, we can either upgrade our thing against our settlement against the Mexicans on 4-1, which is actually coming up. Whenever those options become available, it'll show up here in the Diplomacy tab, that little circle with the arrows. Or wait, no, the little house. It means that's all the things we can do colonially. Colonially? Yeah. Either upgrade a colony we already have to a state, or, you know, make a colony in an area we're trying to colonize. Things like that, pretty much. And I'll show you in a second. And April 1st, April Fool's Day, and it becomes green. We can invest in our colony in Colorado. So we are going to click that, and it brings us to the Colorado screen. We can upgrade our colonists. And now Mexico also did that, so soon enough, I guess September-ish, we should be able to make colonies here, blocking the Mexican advance, northbound. And then we have to take Washington so the British don't get it. So, like I was saying, we can also increase our sphere of our influence with Brazil. So we click that. and it shows we have 51. We need 50 to increase our opinion, and it will cost us 50 of our 51 influence, so we increase the opinion to friendly. So now we need 100 influence, and then we can add them to our sphere of influence, which is good. I'm basically going to try to sphere the entire South America if possible. I should also work on the USCA. I'm not sure how many influence points we get, but it's out of a large pool, basically. Like, let's say we get 20 total influence points a day. So if we're only influencing one country, such as Brazil, all 20 would go to Brazil. But if we spend them on numerous countries at once, which we can do, if we do, like, it's hard to explain, like if we do 3 on Venezuela and Brazil, it'll be evenly split between them. But if we put 1 on the USCA and 3 on Brazil, it'll be split, but not as evenly, if that makes sense. The USCA is a democracy, so we usually like to ally them. Colombia, we want to sphere them so we can build the Panama Canal later on. But everyone wants to sphere them, so I have to do that fast. We can click priority to see who we're influencing. Reduce Brazil to 2. If we can get Colombia early game, that's good. And usually that's what happens. The Texans start winning. We have 4,000 unemployed craftsmen in Massachusetts. Okay. So what we need to do is projects. That's just a railroad. Massachusetts. That's being, yeah, 4,000 men can be hired there. Here's the slavery debate. The one issue that the founding fathers of our great nation were never able to answer conclusively was the question concerning the status of slavery within the Union. This inflamed debate has only gained traction in the years since the Revolution, and it is presently the singular most important issue on our country's political agenda. Some radical Southerners feel that there is no possible compromise to be found on the issue, and that secession is the only alternative to being dominated into emancipation by the central power in Washington. Should our Senate ever be in a position to force political reform on the South, a 40% liberal upper house, we can be certain that it will not happen without opposition. We can expect this issue to linger for some time, which the whole country gets slavery debate for 30 years. Oh, that just, okay. Pretty much until the end of the Civil War. Wow, we have a lot of units being mobilized, walking to Baton Rouge. Let's speed up to 3 for a little bit. Can we get access here now? They will not accept. Huh. That's weird. They will accept an alliance, so do that. Once the Mexicans start winning the war, then we can intervene on Texas's behalf, because they have to be losing for us to intervene as well. Oh, now since they accepted our alliance, we can see their country, and we're about to be able to intervene. All these guys are going to go down there soon, so yeah. All of this really isn't important to me right now, so get rid of that. Wow. Romanticism is about a quarter of the way done. It should be done on 18 January 1830. We still have 3,000 unemployed craftsmen in Massachusetts. 4,000. Why? I guess I have to, I'll subsidize all the factories, because I guess they're firing people. Open all factories, subsidize all factories, and then they'll start hiring people again. Because they have enough money to do that. I guess when they start losing money, they start firing people, pretty much. I'm surprised there aren't as many in New York and as there are in Massachusetts. Also, pause. Almost missed out. We can invest in Colorado. We don't want to fall too far. Oh, we're ahead of the Mexicans. That's good. If we get 3 ahead of them, that means we can instantly take over. Look at this. The war, and the Texans are wrecking them, but their military is no. We can invest in Oklahoma. Ooh, the Mexicans decided to invest there as well. How about that? It's okay. Can we intervene here now? Or are they still winning? Oh, yeah, we can intervene. Are you guys ready? Because I'm ready. July 29th, 1836. We go to war with the Mexican scum. We just joined the Texan War of Independence. Now, with our troops, we're going to march straight in. Yeah, I'm just going to merge these. The Army of Observation, nice to know ya. Going to march into Austin. We have no leader, which stinks, but the Army of the South, led by... Ooh, he's actually pretty good. Jeffrey Franklin, he has some attack. They're not as good, so we're going to march them to Austin. March them to... we'll just defend this for now. Defend the borders, pretty much. There we go. And once these guys all... Oh, wow, that's a big force. Can we, like... Do they have a leader? They don't. Oh, wow, there's more coming. Gigantic force. I'll have to split that once they get down there. Although, heck, for all I know, they might even win before we get there, so... And we're just going to hold our men here. If they decide to attack us, that's fine. These guys are going to go help the Texan army. We're just going to defend Texas for now until these guys get down here. Speed up to 4. Before we get too far into it, though, we're going to use our 8 political points to increase our opinion of other countries. Specifically France right now. Increase relations with France. The max relation you can have is 200. So... if you have over 100, that prevents the countries from going to war with each other. But you can also decrease relations, so... Let's also increase our relations with Colombia. And it takes like 2 to do each of these. Okay, we're defending here. If we had a leader here, I would say attack them. But I'm not sure if they have a leader, so... Or if we... Rather. Okay. How about we send these guys here as well? And then these men, we will go here. Actually, we'll stay here. Which way? Pause. Which way are they going? So let's beat them to it. Already we have a peace offer. Because, wow, that usually it doesn't happen that fast. We can create a protectorate in Oregon. Boom. It's now a protectorate, and we can upgrade it to a colony. So, boom. And the last step is a state. So, peace offer from Mexico. Status quo. That's what we want, right? I think so. Yeah, status quo. So we already beat Mexico. That's actually within August, September, October, 3 months. That's one of the fastest. And there we go. That's actually amazing, guys. That's one of the fastest wars I've had with Mexico, and we didn't even fight them. Usually we fight them a couple times. Wow, that's actually amazing. And then we have the event, Texas applies for statehood. Yesterday morning, we received a petition from the Texan Congress requesting statehood in the United States. A state constitution has been submitted along with maps defining the new state's territorial boundaries. Common opinion seems to hold it a foregone conclusion that we will accept this petition for statehood and forever join Texas into our glorious republic. Trust the common man to get it right, which means we gain core on all Texan provinces and inherit Texas as part of us, or now is not the time, which changes our relation by 100. I would do that just to see how Texas would live as a little state there, but I'm going to do this. Trust the common man to get it right, and Texas is now ours. Now, with every new state that we get throughout the Union, we have to answer this question. Another astounding victory for the USA today, as it has become clear that state name, American Texas, will, as has been expected for some time, be taken up into the American patrimony with full rights of national statehood. One question that still remains to settle is, however, the issue of slavery. Slavery can be extended within our country, and the question on the table is whether we wish to extend the institution to American Texas or not. That's a question. If I make too many states non-slave states, then that urges the Civil War on sooner. But at the same time, and so just for historical accuracy, I'm going to extend slavery because Texas was a slave state. And we have a newspaper. The Fears of Belgium, Loggers Attack. Oh, the Zulu. Democracy in America. Someone in France published the Democracy in America book. Special lectures, meeting interrupted. Piano cat on tour. Yeah, this is one of the funny ones. The famous feline pianist, known simply as the Piano Cat, is scheduled to arrive in Washington this week. The cat artist is expected to play a series of classical pieces. So let's take a quick look. What's going on with the world? See, some of Africa is already automatically claimed by Portugal, Spain. That's Liberia, our satellite state. The Ottoman Empire usually gets into wars with Egypt over that land. This is India. Britain has about half of it, but it's all little sub-states of Britain. The Netherlands and China split into sub-states, and the Russian Empire. So yeah, while I don't want to be too much of a militaristic guy, I was thinking about going to war with Britain once we get allies for British Canada. Going to war with Britain for their territories. And that is what I'm thinking about. Doing that. But not... You see, the question is, do I or don't I? Because at this period in time, the War of 1812, one of the reasons for that was because the U.S. wanted to go and invade Canada and annex it. Of course, we failed, but the U.S. then didn't have me as president. So, what I'm thinking about, rather than expansion, we can invest in Colorado against the Mexicans. They'll probably withdraw soon, hopefully, because we have more colonial power than they do. We can invest in Oklahoma. You see, in case you haven't noticed, Texas isn't the size of normal Texas. That's the size of normal Texas, but part of it's still owned by Mexico. So we later have to war with them for part of Texas, along with the rest of our west coast. However, for now, what I'd like to do, I'm really tempted to go to war with Britain for Mexico, or for Canada, to annex at least Ontario and Quebec, the territories of Ontario and Quebec, if nothing else. The problem is, they have to give us Caribou first, because I don't want to fight for that as well. Caribou is part of Maine nowadays, but I believe it's Maine, but it was part of Britain until 1842, I believe, and then the U.S. and Britain came up with the conclusion to go right along the line, blah blah blah. So after this year ends, 1836, I guess I'll have to end off this first episode. I was planning on actually like a minimum of like 5 years per episode, but I realized we're already at half an hour in and we're not even through 1 year, so that is not an option. Texas has applied for statehood. It just gave us a notice of that, or we had it for a little while, but Mexico demobilized their reserves. We assumed leadership in the war. We won the occupation of Austin. I'm going to demobilize my military right now. We can increase our sphere with Colombia, increase our opinion to friendly. If we can sphere Colombia before Britain and then France start influencing it, we are in big. We're in a very powerful position. So yeah, I'm happy about that. We just have to watch these. Ooh, we have enough points we can start colonizing Washington. And then we'll colonize the rest of Idaho. I was going to call it Illinois, and then I'm like, oh. Free staters. This is another issue. During the most intense days of the slavery debate, some abolitionists organized immigration to the territories of Kansas and Nebraska in order to prevent those territories from being admitted into the Union as slave states. The theory of popular sovereignty held that a democratic vote in the state would decide on whether the state should be constituted as slave or free. These abolitionists were called free staters, and some of them have now turned up in Minnesota. Do we let them settle, which reduces the life rating and increases the population militancy, or enact an ordinance to stop them, which means all non-slavers get consciousness? I don't want to reduce the life rating, so I'll enact an ordinance to stop the free staters here. If the Minnesotans want to be staters or slavers, then let them be. We're going to move the Army of the South. Leave them in Texas, actually. Are they merged? Yes, they are. We'll move the Army of the North back up near Virginia or Washington. Yeah, that's fine. Because we're not going to go to war with Mexico for a while. Now, one thing, we have $25,000. Our economy looks great. So, let's... the tariff at 25%, that's okay. Let's increase our... our education to 60%. Our military spending is okay there. Let's lower the tax on the rich. Well, I hate doing this, taxing the poor so much. It really is the best way to go, because then the rich support factories and stuff, and plus, even full, they only give $13 a day, whereas the poor give $250, and that's because they're more rich than poor, or more poor than rich, rather. Everybody, now we're on January 1st, 1837. Not only does the game autosave under a different file every year, but political news. The upper house has been rearranged. Oh, did I just... Reactionary now has 10% of the population support. The conservatives lost 35 total percent. Reactionary is okay. It's like a minor version of the conservatives, except they're strict against everything, pretty much. Against changing anything. If anything, they like removing privileges, so I don't really like reactionary, but whatever. They're almost as bad as the anarcho-liberals, the sub-branch that'll come later. But liberals got 25% now of the upper house, which is kind of bad, but it's okay. We might be able to enact a reform here. No, I guess not, but since the year is over, that will be all for now. I will see you shortly with another episode. So, yeah, this has been Duke of Hoth speaking. There's the United States with New Texas. I'm trying to think of an outro. Oh, well. We just beat Mexico in the War of Texas Independence, and I don't plan on going to war with Mexico for a little while. I don't know when I would like to invade British Canada for Quebec and Ontario, but it probably won't be for a couple years, so let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, I will see you all next time. So, goodbye.